Here's the problem for the Sixers as it relates to this trade. And this was the problem with firing Sam Hinkie and replacing him with a bad GM. Remember, I told you Colangelo was a bad GM. It was a bad choice. I know he's not there anymore, but still. What Hinkie did was position the Sixers. He gave them what's known as potential energy. And here comes a little lesson on the difference, Stephen A., between potential energy and kinetic energy.
Oh, gosh. I was real bad in science.
If you roll a boulder to the top of a mountain, to the top of a hill, you've created, through positioning, potential energy. You've done the work to put the rock up there, right? Once it rolls down the hill, that's the kinetic energy. You've realized the potential energy. Hinkie pushed the boulder to the top of the mountain, and they thought, he's not the guy to pull the trigger and convert this energy. Let's go get Colangelo. This is now the final result of tanking for that half decade. This is the team you're going to have. They're fresh out of assets. This is it. They got rid of Hinkie. They didn't replace him with a smart guy like Hinkie, even if a guy, if he's cut from a different cloth, but a really, really good GM. They didn't do it. They failed to do it. And now, for half a decade of tanking, you have Embiid, Simmons, and Butler. It's not that it's bad. On the face of it, it's a good trade. They got better in the short term. But you have to ask yourself, is that a championship team? And was that worth half a decade of futility? It didn't have to wind up like this. I'm not saying Hinkie drafted perfectly. But if you pull the trigger on Hinkie, it can't be a guy that the office thinks, the league office thinks is a good GM. It has to be actually a good GM. And then the Sixers would be in a much better position than they are right now.
First of all, let's go through the weeds here and make sure we understand a few things. The league didn't pick Brian Colangelo. His daddy did, Jerry Colangelo. Now, the league had something to do with Jerry Colangelo being in there. And who would Jerry Colangelo happen to be? One of the most highly respected executives in the history of basketball worldwide. The managing director for USA Basketball, who revitalized and reinvigorated that entity. Let's be very, very clear about that. So, no, Colangelo wasn't the ideal choice. And if Colangelo, meaning Brian Colangelo, deserves condemnation for anything, it's for drafting Markelle Fultz and giving up a first-round pick in order to get him. Lord have mercy, did he get hosed? Because Markelle Fultz looks close to a bust. I'm not there yet. I'm trying to give this kid every chance under the sun. He really, he can score, but he really doesn't look like he can play yet. And when you look at Jason Tatum, Dennis Smith Jr., Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, to pass up on to pass up on all of these guys, 2016 pass on Kyle Kuzma, but to pass up on all of these guys for Markelle Fultz, De'Aaron Fox, Sacramento, let me not forget him. To pass up on all of these guys for Markelle Fultz, my God, it just looks awful right now. Having said all of that, I don't want to hear this stuff about Sam Hinkie because you and I have had this argument on many occasions in the past. You don't mind tanking for seasons at a time. They didn't replace Sam Hinkie with Brian Colangelo. They got rid of Sam Hinkie because Sam Hinkie was perfectly content to literally tell a top 5 market in the United States of America, renowned for basketball, we're going to lose on purpose for 5 years. That's what he was doing. Excuse me. The city of Philadelphia was not fine with him. They were not.
We could run a poll.
That's right. You can run a poll anytime you want to. You can run a poll anytime you want to. The fact of the matter is, working in that city for 17 years, being there every single week, knowing that city backwards and forwards, knowing that organization backwards and forwards. I understand you got your friends, but I'm a roll with mine. And I'm here to tell you something right now. The city was not okay with that atrocity. It's just that they felt totally helpless because the Sixers said, this is what we're going to do. Take it or leave it. And that's what happened. Now, let's get to the Butler deal. Butler makes the Philadelphia 76ers, in my opinion, a top 3 team in the East. Yeah. Not top 2. Boston and Toronto is still better. But that's not why I love this deal, Max. Do you know why I love this deal so much? What do we keep saying about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? What help do they really have? Saric can shoot. Ilyasova, when he was there last year, could shoot. Blah, 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 blah. That's what we said. But what they had was shooters who couldn't do but so much unless Ben Simmons set them up because they were catch-and-shoot guys. Covington hit 189 three-pointers, catch-and-shoot style last year, which led to NBA. But none of them could shoot off the dribble. They couldn't create their own shot. They couldn't create their own offense. In Butler, you have that. So what does that mean, Max? Now we get to look at Ben Simmons. jump shot. It's not there yet. What you gonna do about it?
Won't even
We get
take it yet.
we get to look at Joel Embiid and we say, okay, as superstar status as you are, because this brother's big time. You got to play better with your back to the basket. You got to do that too. And last but not least, Max, 3 of their top 5 guards, 3 of their top, and Fultz, Simmons, and T.J. McConnell coming off the bench. 127 minutes he played, attempted 2 3-pointers this year, just 2. So I look at it from that perspective, and I say to myself, excuse me, you don't have long-range threats at the guard spot. Jimmy Butler helps that, and he forces us to look at Simmons and Embiid and say,
but he's not
okay,
a good
what are you
enough
going to give
shooter
us?
to really make a difference. Look, he'll make them better. As I said, they won the trade if you're just analyzing this trade, but they're out of assets. This is the team they have now. Until Ben Simmons starts taking and hitting long-range shots, the Sixers aren't going anywhere. They're not going to make noise in the playoffs. The problem is it's not just Toronto and the Celtics that are better than them on paper going forward, because they have smart front offices. Really, that's what it is. Ujiri and Danny Ainge are the 2 best GMs in the conference, so they have the best teams. It's also the Bucks now. Budenholzer, I keep saying, is the second. He's the second biggest offseason acquisition behind LeBron James. He is getting that team wide open looks.
I got a question for you on that. Because it's interesting. I don't disagree with you. Budenholzer is very, very interesting to me because Budenholzer is getting them open 3-point shots. Does that not have you looking at Brett Brown?
I can't deny
it. Because what I'm saying to you is what you're saying, well, what if the Sixers were getting open 3-point shots? How would they look?
I like Brown as a coach, but
I like
the
him too.
question has to be asked.
Right.
They're not getting good looks. They're also not hitting shots, but it really comes down to, look,
right now,
if you're going to play
they
next
rank
to
dead last defensively right now. Dead last.